Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video from inside the Eve Echo's final test. Today we are looking at the YanJung Battlecruiser, the Canyue, and I do hope I'm pronouncing that right, though I get a sneaky suspicion that I'm not. This was given to everyone who is in the final test today as a way of training and testing and having a little look-see, so we're going to jump in, have a look at the fittings, have a look at the skills, and see how this ship actually works. Now before we jump in, if you do enjoy this video, let me know by hitting like on it, consider subscribing to the channel for all things Eve Echoes, and make sure to ding that notification bell so that you know when the next video goes live. Let me know what topics you'd like to see me cover in future videos, what questions you have that you would like answered, etc. Either by commenting down below, by finding me on the social media channels shown along the bottom of the screen now, or by coming and joining the public channels on the Catskull Cartel Discord. Of course, as well, if you do really want to go the extra mile and help support this channel, you can do so by joining me on Patreon. Every dollar really helps, and I'm always super humbled and grateful to any of you who are able and willing to pledge to me. So thank you ever so much to everyone. I will start putting names on screen eventually, I promise. That's it and done. Let's have a look at the Canyue Battlecruiser. So if we go into the fitting menu, first of all, let's have a look at its actual statistics page. It's got 1 drone tube, 4 high slots, 4 mid slots, 5 low slots, and 3 of each rig. Now looking at this as well, you've got the roll bonus of a medium decomposer optimal range is increased by 25%, 80% increase on the decomposer damage, plus 2 warp stability, so it is going to take at least 3, or at least a combined strength of 3 warp disruptors in order to lock this thing down, so it's not going to be easy to drop down. A command burst module slot, and then we come to the skills. Now for each skill you have an advanced medium decomposer upgrade, you get 5% medium decomposer damage for a total of 25%, 5% medium decomposer optimal range for a total of 25% there, and up to 50% stasis webifier optimal range, 10% per level. For Advanced Battlecruiser Command, again, if you add all these together, you're going to get 50% warp speed and 25% shield, sorry. Looking at the statistics on it, you can see as a battlecruiser, that flight velocity of 166 meters per second means it is slow, along with a warp speed of 2.7. Even when you've got the skills boosting that up, it's still not a fast-moving ship, but it does have a decent-sized power grid with a good capacitor and a fairly sizable cargo hold. Not as big as some cruisers can be, some battlecruisers can be, but it's decent. Shield is what you'd expect from it as well. Now if we have a look at its stats, go into the defense, the shield, and the armor, you can see here that it is 13,094 shield hit points compared to a piddly 4,293, well, piddly comparatively, armor. That means that this is definitely a shield tank ship. It's actually, you can see there, a lot more structure than it has on armor. The armor on these things is pathetic, but they do have decent shields, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, with a ship like this, it's got bonuses to using decomposers, medium decomposers, so that's what we're going to use. And fortunately, the developers have given us 4 of these to go crazy with. Now, if we look at these statistics-wise, you can see they do a decent amount of kinetic with a little bit of explosive damage on the side. Excuse me. Now, looking at the stats as well, decent power grid requirement of 99 megawatts, activation cost is fairly high, but this thing does have a decent power grid as well, as we've seen, and decent capacitor, 9-second activation time, 30 kilometer standard optimal range, with a 13.0 second tracking speed, and that is where the big issue comes in with these decomposers. I know a lot of people were sitting there complaining that the Canyue Destroyer was ridiculously overpowered, but the weapons have a real punch to them, but one massive weakness, and that's their range. For a battlecruiser, a 30-kilometer range isn't massive, and that tracking speed is absolutely terrible, which means anything that gets too close, you're just not going to be able to track and actually hit. So you do need to be able to keep at range, and with the slow movement of the ship itself, that's going to be the problem. Single hit damage, though, is absolutely incredible. And people have been asking as well, what is the maximum range on these? Well, from what we've seen, this isn't like any of the other turrets that have an optimal range and a fall-off. It's also not like missiles that have that whole velocity and that. These things do tend to, they work like turrets, but up to an optimal range of 30 kilometers. If you're at 31, you're going to be missing. So there is no fall-off with these. They're either effective or they're missing. Anyway, let's continue and have a look at how else we've equipped this one out. If we go down to the bottom, I've fitted 3 of the returned macro particle stabilizers, just because these are a great way of just upping that DPS. An extra 5% damage bonus for each of these. When you activate, that goes up to 8.03. They activate for 20 seconds with a 60-second reactivation delay. And then 400% activation time as well is really nice, just things speed up. Basically, speedy thing in, speedy thing out, like lots of little shooting going on there. Because it is so slow, I have fitted a Republic Fleet medium micro warp drive, just because I want to actually be able to move this ship around from time to time, especially when looting a battlefield. It does take up a fair bit of power grid, but it's not as bad as like using a micro warp drive. It's just enough to help me kite a little bit and try and keep them at range and looting at the end. Followed with a Mark V medium shield booster. I would ideally like something a bit bigger than a Mark V medium shield booster, but it's all I had available. Finally, in the mid slots, I've got a Mark III drone because it's all I've got left. And hey, against things like, say, a Tal War or, you know, the small destroyers and frigates and that kind of thing, it does do a little bit of something if they happen to get close, which is nice, I guess. And then a stasis webifier. Now, you should watch my video on E-War modules to understand what a webifier does. But essentially, hit someone with a web of fire and you slow them down, which makes them easier for your turrets to hit and easier for you to outmaneuver them as long as they are in the Weber range. You can see here, though, the optimal range is 11.2 kilometers. It is a very short range weapon, but the Canyue does have a bonus to the range. Stasis Web of Fire optimal range on Advanced Decomposer upgrade. Now, I think I've got Advanced Decomposer upgrade to 4, so that's 40% Stasis Web of Fire optimal range, which would mean I go from 15.68, so that's basically 16 kilometers, looking to about 24 kilometers, I think. We'll check when we're out in space, because that's when the skills will all actually apply. Now, finally, if we go into the rigs, we have a couple of different rigs that have been given to us as well that we can fit in here. Same as before, the Decomposer Collision Accelerator, which is a straight-up damage bonus, and then the Decomposer Burst Aerator, which is an activation time reduction of 12.5%. Now, when you stack these, as it says here, penalty using more than one of this type of module or rig on a single ship will result in a penalty to the final effect. So stacking 3 of these is not as good as having 3 individual ones. You don't want to just put 3 of the same. Now, the straight damage ones are the best until you take into consideration that you're going to have 3 of them and they are going to be losing. So we're going to put losing some of their ability. So we're going to put in 2 of the damage rigs, and then 1 of the activation time rigs, and that gives us the theoretical highest DPS if my calculations are correct. Now, straight up, you can see that docked DPS on this thing is now a whopping 931.64. That's before we've gone into space and actually activated all those boosters, which of course is what we're going to do in just a minute and see how this thing actually reacts, because again, there are certain ways you're going to have to use this in actual combat situations. You can't just fly it out, lock on and shoot. Now, in regards to skills, of course, the first thing you're going to want on here is the Battlecruiser Command skill. This is pretty much a necessity on most Battlecruisers, I find, because that inertia and that ability to move really helps. And on this particular ship, getting into Advanced Battlecruiser Command gives us that Stasis Web of Fire bonus range, which is going to be incredibly useful in case anything happens to get up close and personal, and you need to be able to slow them down. So that's well worth training into. Weapon-wise, though, of course, if we go down to Decomposers, of course, you're going to want to have Medium Decomposer Command, get that trained, Medium Decomposer Upgrade as well, you want trained, you want to get into Advanced Medium Decomposer Upgrade as quickly as possible, because not only does this give you extra damage, optimal range, and the Macro Particle Stabilizer activation time extension, it is also, of course, benefiting the Canyue Battlecruiser as well with those bonuses. I would argue that Advanced Medium Decomposer Upgrade, therefore, is more important than Advanced Medium Decomposer Command, though I would recommend getting Medium Decomposer Command for that 20% damage and the 10% tracking speed there for fewer skill points than some of the others, so that's well worth going into. Now, if you want to, obviously electronics there is under Battlecruiser Engineering. You can go in and get some skill points in that just to up the capacitor and the power grid and the warp capacitor needs, so you can warp out a bit faster and have a bit more battery in that to what's going on. Maintenance technology, of course, shield operation is going to be a useful one, as is, of course, Battlecruiser defense upgrade, which I'm currently training to level 3 because I ran out of free skill points because there were so many things to train. It's worth pointing out as well, actually, if we go into Decomposer and have a look at those final skills, why I haven't trained that to level 5. Level 5 there, 1,896,705 skill points to get that to level 5. With a basic alpha, so the 40 skill points per minute, 35, 40 skill points per minute, that works out at 37 days worth of training. It's a lot of skill points. I didn't have enough to put into everything, so that's what I've gone for there. Anyway, right, let's undock. We're going to have a look at the ship. We're going to see what the DPS actually climbs to and what the statistics are once we're undocked, and looking at skills and all of that to see what kind of damage we are actually going to be able to pull with this. Then I'm going to showcase it in action, which does, as I say, require a little bit of difference. Now, before, I just want to say I really like the look of this ship as well. That, to me, looks like the sort of the business end of a Gundao, which is a Chinese polearm. Really, really cool looking thing. I love this side of it as well, that sort of green glow to it. Now, my wife says it looks a little bit like a phaser gun and then made pew-pew noises at me, and I have to agree, it kind of does. You know, you've got the handle down there, the hilt, whatever you want to call it, the bit that you hold on to and has the trigger attached, and it does look pretty cool. It looks sci-fi as all hell, is the point I'm trying to make here. Anyway, so let's have a look at those skills and those upgrades, because currently we're sitting at 931.64. The optimal range with skill points now trained is at 52.2 kilometers, so that's a lot better already. And then if we... Oh, crikey, I forgot to take off the shield booster. Or has that just bugged? That's just a graphical bug. Okay, that's just a graphical bug. And we've got the stasis webifier, which is now sitting at 15.68 kilometers as well. Cool. So at 15.68 kilometers, we can start webbing them. Although, in fairness, we shouldn't have anything get that close. Optimal range of 52.2. Now, if I go in and activate all three of these, we'll see what the theoretical top DPS on this thing that I've got is. 1,497.69. 1,500 DPS for all it matters. Holy heck. Oh, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. Alright, well, let's have a look at some anomalies in the local system and see what we can do here. Now, I've got Angel Cartel Base, I really don't want to kill, a small anomaly and a medium anomaly. Now, because of the range of this thing, I want to warp in at probably about 50-55 kilometers, just because I don't want to warp in right next to something, because I'm not going to be able to shoot it. Because, again, if we look at those stats, 14.38 tracking speed, that's not great at all. In fact, once we get to about 25 kilometers away, that is going to be missing 90% of the time. It's horrific. Optimal range, though, 52.2, so as long as I'm sitting at around 50 kilometers out, I should be doing absolutely fine. I should be outranging most things, and this ship can take a little bit of a punch as well. Anyway, let's jump out into combat situation here, lock onto everything. Now, when you're doing target priority with a battlecruiser, I have got a Hurricane video en route as well that talks about this, but target priority here is absolutely going to be the faster moving ships, simply because once they get within that range, and they're going to get within that range very quickly, they're the ones that are going to get to that sort of 20 kilometer, under 25 kilometer margin, and I'm going to be missing all the time. So they're the ones that need to be taken out before they can reach that range. Now here you see at 52 kilometers, not much is going to happen. Once we're at 50, I can really deal some hurt. So again, here on the Vigil, we should switch to the Vigil next, and we're pretty much going to one-shot everything here, one salvo through, just because the amount of damage this thing can kick out is absolutely dirty, and that's without me even worrying about putting the boosters on. You can see that each turret that hits is taking a massive whack off there. If I just put one of those on, let's see how much damage we do to that Gistum Rupture. And wow, down it goes very, very quickly. This is going to be a great way to make some money if you haven't got a ton sitting around already from earlier in the beta. Oh, there's a burst here. Burst, of course, being a logistics frigate. That means that's going to be healing the rest of the fleet as long as it's left alive. So what I intend to do is not leave it alive. Now, one thing that is worth saying as well, currently, you can't actually stack decomposers, which is really, really annoying. That is a bit of a bug at the moment I'm getting, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so we can just tank through all of these now, and we'll see now what happens once we hit, like, a Rupture with all my turrets on it there. Just insane damage. Absolutely insane damage. But again, if they do manage to get into close, then yeah, it's going to be an issue. If they can get in close, they are going to do some real damage to me. Obviously, my drone is massively out of range. What actually is the drone range on this? 25 kilometers? That's 25 kilometers, including my skills. So that's not great at all. And you can see, as I said, just the amount of damage that I can do here. I'm not even kiting, I'm not even moving. I'm killing stuff before it gets close enough to actually do any form of damage to me. So let's get those bursts locked in there. Let's actually approach this time. I'm going to get to about the 50-kilometer mark. There we are, that'll do. Put on that afterburner so I can get in a little bit closer. Oh, and we're just going to nuke everything. So let's activate all the turrets. You see, at 61 kilometers, it's straight up miss. There is no fall off on this at all, but now that we're within 54, 51, there, the 51 suddenly nuked it, down it goes. Focus fire from the onto the burst there. Get those done quickly. There we go. Pop goes the weasel, down goes the Gisty burst. We'll move on to the Talwar next. And that just goes down in one salvo, the Thrasher. Oh, yeah, there we are. It's worth noting as well, I'm just looking at my chat here in the sides. As Jade is pointing out, nullsec is now getting a bit dangerous. Some people have managed to find warp disruptors they are locking on. In a ship like this, that +2 warp stability means you are going to be difficult to lock down, which is an advantage. But if you are worried about this kind of thing, head into the market and look for some of the warp stabilization rigs. They are the engineering level rigs, so they're not the combat ones. This ship can still fit 3 of them. And that's worth doing on any ship that you don't want to lose straight up in nullsec, as things are getting a little bit heated out here. We're getting a lot more action, and I can't wait for live to come along. Although I am seeing an awful lot of people still destroying bases. Stop destroying bases. It does nothing for you. It literally just gimps the economy. You do not want to be destroying bases. Get out there, kill anomalies, kill standard anomalies, the smalls, the mediums, the larges, the inquisitors, and the scouts. Then you have a chance for a scout or an inquisitor to respawn, and that you should never be killing a base. A base ultimately is what spawns the anomalies. If you kill a base, then the anomalies stop spawning at a decent rate, and they're going to all go back to being level 1, which is just no use to anyone. Anyway, folks, I think that really does cover everything now, since I'm not even talking about the Canyue Battlecruiser anymore. I think that covers pretty much everything I want to say. You've seen the damage this thing can do. When the game is actually in live, though, you are going to see that this is one heck of a difficult ship to get hold of. We're already struggling just to get things like Drumiels and Worms because of how you get the blueprints and the parts for them. So something like a Canyue or a Canyue destroyer, we just have no idea where you're actually going to find those blueprints. And if they're anything like the other faction ships, they are going to be an absolute pig to get hold of. So do enjoy this while you can. Enjoy blowing stuff out of the sky at a ludicrously fast rate. You can see now at 20 kilometers, I'm already beginning to suffer trying to hit this. So let's put the stasis webifier on it. There we are. It won't let me get on there, but let's get those turrets on there. Oh, I'm out of capacitor. I'm out of capacitor, and that's why I can't fire. Makes sense. Anyway, let's turn off everything then and let my capacitor recharge. Oh, okay, we found another problem with this ship. You can cap out quite quickly if you're not paying attention. Anyway, folks, thank you ever so much for watching. Do let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Canyue class battlecruiser. Goodness gracious me, I can't remember what blasted class this ship is. Let me know how you get on with the Canyue, what you're enjoying about it, how you feel about it in the comment section below, or by coming and finding me, of course, on the Catskull Cartel Discord. Otherwise, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.